Hey.
Hey.
Hi. What's
Hi.
up? Welcome to Dunks and Donuts. I am Riann, and this is.
I am Jared, as you all know.
And we were waiting for you all to introduce yourself.
Yeah, we're going to go around the classroom. And,
Everyone go ahead.
Tell a fun fact about yourself.
Yes, icebreaker time.
Yeah, no, that's never happening. Except for it happens all the time on this show.
But hello, welcome back to Dunks and Donuts. Yay.
So we have a special episode, which it's cool because I feel like we have a couple of specials already.
I know.
For, only doing this for a few weeks, but we have a special episode today. A very prominent person on Celtics Twitter who creates some of your guys' favorite content happens to join the show.
He is the best. He definitely made some of, I don't even know, probably like half of Celtics Twitter's Christmas presents. But who is it? Announce.
So we have Pete Rogers, as he goes by on Twitter. Pete Rogers, professional diaper changer.
Because he is.
Yes, he is. And you guys will learn a lot about Pete here in just a minute. So for those who don't know, which I would assume is none of you, I'm assuming you all know who he is. He creates custom-made jerseys after every Celtics win, dating back to last season. He's done well over 100 of them, which is insanely impressive considering we won, 57 games last year. We're already at 49 this year.
Yep.
So Pete joined the show. He talked about everything ranging from how he started doing it, what inspired him, to just how he got involved with Celtics Twitter to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So without further ado, here is Pete.
Welcome, Pete.
So everyone, Dunks and Donuts is back with another awesome guest. We have Pete Rogers with us. If you're on Celtics Twitter, you know who Pete is. He designs all of our favorite jerseys after every win. Pete, how are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thanks for being here. So we're doing this new thing. We're asking every guest, what is your favorite kind of donut?
I often fluctuate between your classic glaze is just, if it's done properly, is impossible to beat. But I am also a sucker for any kind of maple frosted donut.
Maple frosted is super underrated.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that is an underrated choice. I like that.
Yeah, that's the one where it's like if you see a maple frosted, you're like, I don't know if I really need a donut right now, but I'm definitely going to get a donut.
Yes, exactly. It'll turn you that way.
Donut.
Exactly. No, it really is. It is. Bars. All right, so let's just get this out of the way, right? I mean, obviously, you've kind of blown up on Twitter since you started doing these jersey remakes. But I want to take it a step back further. Have you always been a Celtics fan? Tell us a little bit about that, like your fandom with the Celtics.
Yeah, so I grew up just outside of Boston and grew up more as a Patriots fan. And so, but always an allegiance to Boston sports. And then I would say over the last 5 or so years, the shift has kind of been I've been making a shift away from the Patriots and from football to basketball. And so, but always a Celtics fan, and only recently, I would say in the last 5 years, has it become my go-to sport where I try to sit down and be able to at least watch as many games as I can. It's a shift going from, 17 games to 82 games that you have to watch. So the commitment is there. So making that shift, but yeah, so it's always been something that has been a part of me, and so it's a natural thing to do. Plus, given the fact that there's, especially in the NBA, you got the Celtics, you got the Lakers, and you got those kind of the Bulls, handful of those staple teams that just don't have that much flexibility in terms of jersey designs. You get kind of basically the same things over and over, same ideas, same themes. And so combining that with, already just like a love for the Celtics, felt like a natural fit of being like, all right, let's do something kind of cool, something crazy. Let's see how many Celtics jerseys can you actually come up with. And I was thinking about it like a couple days ago, and I think it's I've done on the order now between these two seasons, like almost 100.
Insane.
Which is exactly that. Is insane. Not what I was thinking I was going to sign myself up for.
I was going to ask, I'm sure you probably you hadn't even thought that far ahead, right? You were just
so
I'm going to do this will be fun.
Exactly. The idea came from, it was an artist, her name's Rita Oak, who on Twitter does, she did drawings. She did a drawing every day. First it was Jimmy G. It was every day Jimmy G before Jimmy G got traded. She was a 49ers. She's a 49ers fan, so she drew Jimmy G. And then once he got traded, she did one for, I think it was like every day until the 49ers win the Super Bowl. And I saw the Jimmy G one, and I was like, all right, well, I can't design a jersey every single day. That's insane. Yes. So I was like, all right, well, we'll tie it to Celtics wins. And so this was last season. And I was like, great team. We're like, this is going to be an exciting year. Let's see what we can do. And then it ended up with 57 wins. And so I was like, all right, like that's a sizable amount of jerseys, but manageable. This year I signed myself back up for it. I was like, again, great team. Let's see what we can do. Probably going to be in the same realm as like 50 wins. The like multiple 9+ game winning streaks, the fact that in the last month and a half or 2 months, I've had to do a jersey every single game has been not what I signed up for.
Yep.
Already being in the mid 40s or late 40s, almost 50s. And we are still just entering March is much more than I signed up for. But I mean, I can't say no to it. It's incredible. Yes. I absolutely love being a part of it.
Exactly.
No, it's definitely like it's grown into such an amazing thing for all the fans. Like every single time you post one, it's not just like a handful of people retweeting it. It's thousands of people like, interacting with those posts. And I mean, you've turned this into so much more. Like you're selling these jerseys now. And, I can't go to a game and not pick out 10 Pete jerseys like instantly.
That's sick.
And it's so walk me through that a little bit. What's that feeling like when you see people posting on Twitter wearing your jersey designs?
It's wild. So like last season was the first time that we were selling them and like seeing people wearing them and like having people post them at games. And I went to a game last season and saw a bunch of people in them, and it was a surreal experience of just, it's an instance of having created those ideas and like sharing them on Twitter and people getting really excited about them on Twitter is like one thing. And then another thing for people to be like actually spending money on something that you designed and then wearing it and repping it and being excited about that is incredible. So I had like that first kind of that wave hit me. And then this season it was Christmas, and it was like people getting them for Christmas gifts and giving them to their
something
kids
you
as
did.
Christmas gifts. And I was like, that's somehow that was like a whole nother level of it. It wasn't just like someone buying it for themselves. It was like, this was a gift that they got someone for like Christmas of all holidays, and it being like the Christmas gift. And so that was it was another instance of just like, whoa, this is wild. This is surreal that this is happening right now. And the only reason it's happening is because like, we all know the Celtics fandom is just like incredible and extremely supportive and extremely everyone latched on. It was just kind of through happenstance that it all came to fruition in this way. Yes. But like the support has been through the roof, and we wouldn't be doing this without that.
Everyone will commit to the bit so well. Like everyone will, and they'll just keep doing it. The same thing with my bakery. It ended up being that I halfway believed I could bake, but everybody else really believed I could bake.
Right.
They were super sure I could do this. And after a little bit, I started to believe everybody else. And it was I remember Christmas was I was like, there's no way people are buying these to share with other people, because that means they actually like it.
to the point where they're like,
nice to me.
yeah, exactly. To the point where it's like, oh, I need other people to have this or this. Yeah, that kind of stuff is insane. It's wild. You're
so awesome.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's an instance where you have like I don't necessarily know how to react. I'm just like this. I'll just kind of sit in awed silence and let that be my reaction.
Yes, I'll just take this in somehow.
I'll just accept it.
So with all that, right? Like that in both of these stories, like Ryan's and yours are very similar. Like her bakery, your jerseys, and then turning it into what it is now. So when you first started this venture, right? Was it something that was just more for fun, like for you to do in your free time?
Yeah.
Did you ever expect it to get to this level?
Definitely never expected it to get to this level. So it was like during the pandemic. So I used to write for SB Nation. And so during the pandemic, obviously sports stopped happening.
Yes.
So I was like, all right, well, I have a lot of free time on my hand. And I've never done it professionally, but I've always been into design and have very much enjoyed that. And so kind of shifted into jerseys just for fun during the pandemic. And so I built up a following on Instagram, just doing all kinds of jerseys. And then,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so I kind of covered the whole litany, like all sports, all different teams, the whole 9 yards, and kind of got kind of a following there. And then it was last season where I had been, it was just my personal Twitter account, which was just basically me just tweeting about Boston sports and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, what would be fun? Like I have a following on Insta. Maybe this is something that I can translate to Twitter to kind of also build up a following there. And since I had already had that kind of Boston fan base baseline of Twitter following, I was like, clearly I'm just going to do a Celtics thing and we'll just see what that is. And basketball jerseys, having done all jerseys, basketball jerseys lend themselves the most to cool ideas because there's a precedent for it in all of the jerseys that the NBA does. And there's also just a lot more, I feel like, freedom in terms of like how the jersey can be laid out. Hockey, you got to have the big logo in the front. Football is the big numbers. Baseball is very minimal, and you have text. Like there's just
that's so interesting.
Yeah, so there's certain constraints for all the other jerseys in order for you to make ones that people would be like, oh yeah, this feels like a real jersey.
Yep.
Whereas basketball, you've seen everything. It can be big text, small text, logo, no logo, like just number. It can be all kinds of cool, crazy patterns, and so there's so much more space to kind of do creative, cool designs. So then, so did the Celtics, and then it just, took off and never, never thought that it was going to be garner the amount of attention or following that it has just purely from a Twitter standpoint. And B, never was expecting it to go to be come a like manufacturing / own standalone website for store and like selling jerseys, on the regular.
I have to ask, have you done anything else in your life that involves that type of production on a larger scale of anything? You had to have learned how to do it like immediately, right?
Yeah. So it was kind of just like through luck of the draw that I was paired with the apparel company who I work with. And so like they have a manufacturing connection, and I have a design friend who had done jerseys way back with them. He designed when during the bubble and the Raptors were down in Miami playing or in Tampa playing in Tampa Bay, went around the like old Raptors jerseys, but it's at Tampa Bay and the whole Raptor was in a Hawaiian jersey. So he had designed those and had them manufactured with this apparel company. And he had reached out kind of again, middle of last season, was like, hey, they're looking to like work with other designers. Would you be interested? And I was like, sure. Like, I'm happy to talk to them. Like, I didn't think that there was going to be, again, huge demand. And then there was, and it just kind of all clicked into place. And we did one drop. I think it was, I'm trying to remember what jersey. I know, obviously the one jersey I know was on that first drop was the MBTA jersey. And I think there might have been one or two others on that drop, but the MBTA was like, we sold far more than I could have anticipated and expected. And we were like, oh shit, this might have some legs. This is crazy. So then we just kind of have continued from there.
Again, this like is so amazing to me, right? Because in the other episodes, we've talked to people of all different stages of Celtics Nation who are involved with different things. And it's so incredible to see that like this community of people is so supportive of whatever anybody chooses to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like you don't see that with a lot of other fan bases.
I see that with a lot of people.
Yeah. I was going to say,
like, that's just like in general, like the fact that there is, it's once if you have a kind of thing, a niche, whatever, and that clicks, especially with Celtics, like all of a sudden there's just like, yeah, cool. That's the jersey guy, the baker. Like that's just like, those are the things. And
it's an established thing. It's people buy into it. If you believe in it, it's so awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, like you saw like it was like the old period of Weird Celtics Twitter and like the staples of Weird Celtics Twitter. And then like that continue. It's insane how solid of a community it is.
Right. Well, and they'll come back. That's kind of another thing for me is that I remember when I first opened, I knew that so much of it has been convincing myself that I'm doing the thing I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But I remember people would purchase their first order and I thought, you know, that's awesome. And that's what I expected. I was like, people will come once and they'll come to show support.
Right.
But, you know, one time is enough. But they'll come back.
Yeah.
And they stay so present. And I know it has so much to do with the type of people, for some reason, that our fan base calls to that stick around long term, and are so pure in their support. Mm-hmm. Seeing all of the little kids in their jerseys was just the cutest thing in the whole world.
That was absolutely surreal.
And everybody else got to think it was the cutest thing in the whole world too. And now we remember it, which is so special. But that's awesome.
It's wild. It's awesome.
And again, I don't know how like you guys feel because I'm not on that end of it where like I don't have a product to like give to people to like get that feedback. But just from seeing your guys' facial expressions and your reactions and just hearing the way you guys talk about it makes me happy, right? It makes me happy to be a part of it. And obviously, like I see it all over my Twitter feed anyway. And it's just such a great feeling knowing that like I can use my platform, you know, whether it's doing the podcast with Ryan or if I write an article, like to be able to help promote you guys and to promote people who do this type of thing. And I
think it's such a pay it forward thing, though, Jared. Yeah. Like, it's so pay it forward that then whenever it may be, because I talked to Pete and I'm like, I don't even feel like having our two different things, like the jerseys and my bakery in the same conversation is crazy to me even. But then when your ticket comes, whatever it may be, you'll be in my position, you know what I mean? And you'll have me to do the exact same thing that you've done for me and so many other people. So it's like it all comes back around.
For sure.
And everybody's just so happy for each other. I guess I just really appreciate that.
No, and that is for sure. And so before we get a little too much into the community side of things, which is coming next, I do want to keep talking about your jerseys though. So you've obviously designed at this point over 100. Right, 57 wins. We're at 49, 48 now. So we're over 100 jerseys.
Impossible to plan for.
I need to know the top 5 favorites that you made.
I get this question a lot, and it's an impossible question. So what instead I like to think of is like either jerseys that I love, which are all of them, but there's some that like I just think turned out very nice.
Right.
Or also ones that like I feel like were monumental moments. Mm-hmm. So like the MBTA jersey, like that is the jersey that has been only recently. So it's been over a year, about a year and a half, I would say that. Yeah, about a year. Let's say about a year that we've been selling jerseys. And in that time we try to do about a drop a month, sometimes more, sometimes less, but about a drop a month. And as long as we've been selling multiple jerseys, including the MBTA, only one of those drops has it been outsold. So every single drop we've dropped, the MBTA is always the most popular jersey. And the
what was the one time that it was outsold?
First time we brought Pink Lemonade back. Pink Lemonade is the only jersey that can really challenge the MBTA.
The first one I think of.
Yeah,
That's the one that I still need to get one. If you guys ever drop it again, every time I go to buy it, it's sold out.
That one we're starting to keep in stock. So that one we're going to make sure that that's in stock on the site more regularly, because that has taken the mantle as the kind of number 1B to MBTA. But so the MBTA one is like, will always have a special place in my heart, because like that was the jersey that I feel like kind of launched everything that everyone got really excited about. Was like one of those instances of like just connecting to the city of Boston in a way that so often city jerseys don't, which is like a whole nother side discussion of just like Nike's inability to like tap into what actually is about a city. But anyways, so that one obviously resonates. And then the other one in a similar vein, which is one of my favorites simply because I had always had the idea and it played out exactly as I thought it would, is the gas tank and the swashes on the side, which was just like, I knew that was going to be one I was going to do. I had been one that I've been thinking about for a long time. And it was just, there are a few jerseys. It played out
just how you imagined.
Oh my God. There's a few jerseys where you sit down. Normally each one takes me, I'd say like an hour to two, roughly. This one I sat down, it took me like 15 minutes. I was just like, boom, boom, boom.
I know exactly what I'm doing.
This is it. This is, I'm no notes, I'm done. So those are ones that like, I think will always be very special in my mind.
I remember with the gas tank one, it was like, this was one of the very first ones you did. You had put out a tweet, if I remember correctly. You were asking people like, what would you like to see on jerseys? And I remember I was one of the first people that commented, and there was a concept jersey that I saw like years ago, like it was before the bubble, of a gas tank jersey. And I remember I posted it in the comments, and I was like, something like this, like a gas tank jersey. And then a bunch of people started like responding to me on your post. They're like, yeah, do the gas tank. And the feedback, I remember just that one was such a like hype moment that everybody wanted it. And yours turned out infinitely better than the other concepts that I saw. So I'll just put that out there right now.
Yeah, that one was probably of the last season, by far and away the most requested one. And so I saved it for, I'm sure, for something, but had that one. And that one was, again, it was just one that like just fit perfectly together and was just all the
and then you got the response that you were hoping for too.
Exactly.
I'm guessing other people were like, oh yeah, I totally buy into this.
Then it nailed, and then it landed. And again, another example of just like taking city landmarks and putting them on cool jerseys and being like another one of my favorites, just because it means so much to me, was Make Way for Ducklings jersey, because that one is one too where it's like I mean, if you grew up in Boston, you read Make Way for Ducklings in school. That was like a pivotal part of growing up in Boston.
Yes.
And you'd make the trip out and you'd see the ducklings and you'd walk so all of that was, and so being able to like, again, it was one where I didn't know how it was all going to piece together, and I didn't know how the pieces were going to fit and whether or not it would work and whether or not it would read well. And I think that one didn't come immediately. That took a while. But when it did click, I was like, oh, yeah, this
there's
works.
Something, whatever your last touch was on it, I'm looking at it, obviously. Yeah. Whatever that last touch was, managed to tie it all together.
Yeah,
it just looks so
the one
beautiful.
that took the longest was the sides, was the stripes of the jersey. Because I was like, I didn't want to just have the Ducks sitting on top of Boston and have it just be a green jersey, because it felt a little too empty. And so the sides took a long time to kind of piece that together, but then that came together, and I was like, yeah.
Even now, it's so interesting because it's things that I would never think about. You know what I mean? Even just looking at it, even if I bought it and had it, I don't think I would give that much thought to, wow, that must have driven you crazy for at least 10 minutes trying to figure out how to make that not look weird and strange.
Yeah, for sure. And that one also too, that was another one where like I tweeted it and immediately all the comments were just like, oh my God, this is my childhood, like my childhood. And I was like, yep, that was mine. And that's another thing about like tapping into those Boston landmarks or those just like those things of growing up in and around Boston is that most everyone has the same experience, very similar experience. And so you're all tapping into those same things. And so when I have an idea of like, oh man, I remember this, and I do a jersey from it, and seeing everyone else be like, oh my God, I know exactly, like the Candy-O Cars jersey that I just dropped. I was like, I grew up with the Cars. I love the Cars. And so like, you know, making a Candy-O jersey and dropping that. And as you know, of the Boston bands, you know, I did Aerosmith in Boston and Dropkick, and like those are staples. Most everyone knows those bands. And the Cars is still known, but like maybe a little lesser known. And just having people being like, oh, Candy-O jersey, hell yes. And I was like, oh my God, be still. That's it. Yes. That's exactly it.
It's again, like the work you put into each of these jerseys, and like the fact, and I know you've talked about it a little bit on Twitter and like publicly. You talk about how usually you're like, you don't have like a backlog of them, that you kind of do them on the fly. So obviously we just talked about some of your favorites, and there's a couple other jerseys that I want to talk about in a second, but walk us kind of through, not necessarily like the off-season ones or, you know, those ones, because there are a couple of those that I do want to talk about, but just in general, like game time, you know, how do you decide like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is the theme of the game almost? Like, walk us through that process.
Yeah, so most of the time actually I either do them the day before or the day of, but like well before. So I'll do them like in the mornings and have them all be saved and like ready to go well before the game starts, because too often I used to do it kind of a little closer to deadline, but then I would find myself actually, so when I first started, I would tweet the day after the game. And then a couple times I tweeted the day of the game because I had it done. And I was like, oh, this is, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, got a ton more engagement.
Exactly.
People were already on Twitter from the game. And so like people were immediately looking for it. And so I was like, okay, let's start doing this early, so I have these things locked and loaded and ready for when the game ends to tweet them out. And it tends to be either it's, you know, I have a idea or like a theme. So like I really, you know, when the Aerosmith jersey dropped and people were all excited for that, I was like, okay, well, let's ride the kind of Boston, the Boston sports, the Boston bands for a little bit. And so I did those. And so that was a theme. Last year, one of the themes was I did all the other Boston teams. So I, you know, a Celtics theme, Red Sox theme Celtics jersey, Patriots theme Celtics jersey, and then Bruins theme Celtics jerseys. But if it's not something that I have an idea ahead of time or like a theme that I'm kind of building upon, it tends to be like something that hits me, some sort of whether or not it's like a word mark that I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling drawn to this word mark, and we'll see what jersey kind of pieces itself around that. Or if it was like for Win 41. It was, I did the Bill Russell kind of diamond tribute jersey. Yes, that was just because I saw the warm-ups from the game before, the game prior. There was the picture of D White in the warm-up shirt. And I was like, oh, you know what? Just popping that like diamond pattern around a number would just be a really clean jersey. And so that was just like pieced it together, threw it on. So it tends to be, you know, I have a whole inventory of Celtics word marks from past, present, future, the whole 9 yards. Got them all. And so I kind of like will bounce through those and see what talks to me, whether or not, or maybe it's using Lucky, maybe it's using the Shamrock, Parquet, any kind of those things. And then just seeing kind of like how it all fits together in pieces. And sometimes I'll also look at like, what have I done recently and shift colors. So like if I feel like I've done a lot of white jerseys recently, making sure I do some greens or black or gold or something like that, so that it doesn't feel like, because this is very much a like designer me is like white jerseys are great and they're amazing to get some points across, but they feel kind of a cop out to me because you can do so much with them.
Yeah, it's so much like, open space.
Right. If it's a green jersey, you can't do like red on green because you're going to get Christmas, or you're going to get weird color contrast, or like blue on green also doesn't really look that great together. So it makes you do kind of like, makes you flex other creative muscles. And so like, I'll say, you'll notice, I'm sure you noticed that like any kind of like big the big jerseys that I do, or the ones that are like are very Boston specific, tend to be white because it's easier to get that image across.
Yeah, I did. People look at it right away.
And they're just like, boom, recognition is easy. And then I tend to like, we'll always make sure to get some greens. Yeah, get some greens, get some blacks ones, get some golds. I've started wanting to do more gold and yellows. And then any opportunity to do weird colors too. Like last year, I did a marathon jersey that was blue. This year, I did the city on a hill, which was blue. And so like doing any opportunity to do colors that are totally outside of the Celtics scheme, I always love doing too.
There's speaking of the off-color ones, there's one that you just conveniently left out, which I need to talk about. Is the horny Porzingis.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say my automatic thought, or the most recent one.
That thing is art.
That one was fantastic. And that one was so well received, too. Like, you had, like, it was like, what, purple with, like, stars, and then you have unicorn Porzingis with, like, the rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was so perfectly off-brand. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was that perfect little dip into off-brand really quickly that it was like, oh, yeah. That's a hit. That works.
Yeah.
That one because that was doing all the numbers. And so since like the whole starting lineup is single digits, I was just knocking them out right at the beginning. And it was, the 7, 8, 9, that sequence, because I had Jalen's Juice themed jersey and then D White's Hot Hands jersey. And then sandwiched in between them was Sexy Porzingis. And I had seen I'd seen like the just photoshops of, it was back when he was on the Knicks when he first got drafted and he had the unicorn label, and there was photoshops of him as a unicorn, and I was like, oh man, that would be like, give me like a hot sweaty Porzingis with horse body and jumping up and like amazing, just like an absurd. And it was also an homage, like I'm sure, I don't know if I intentionally did this, who knows? I mean, whatever. It was an homage to Weird Celtics Twitter, where you get those kind of like totally weird visual arts and horniness that like is great about this community. And so
strange, but awesome.
So strange, but it also works. And so, so that one was definitely one where I was like, I had an idea of how it was going to land, but I was also like, this is a weird jersey, and who knows what the people will think. And then it hit. Yeah, no, that one I just will never forget that day. Like, I just remember it dropping, and just that was for like 3 days the only thing I was seeing on my feed. It was like someone replied, "Here it is," or someone retweeted it. Like, that jersey was just perfect. Now, on the flip side of that one, a jersey that made everybody happy, I do want to talk about the Love and Trust jersey for when Marcus got traded.
Yeah. That was a big blow, obviously, to Celtics fans everywhere. Celtics Nation, we lost a brother, basically.
Individually.
And, I mean, Ryan and I both took that trade really hard. And I've talked about it before. Yeah. For me, it was like, Marcus and I are very close in age. Mm-hmm. So watching him come up through the NBA and grow as a person, and me coming up, growing through wanting to be in media, it almost felt like a parallel, which is why I related to him. And then the trade happens. Everyone's all down and out about it. Here comes Pete with arguably
so beautiful,
probably my top 3 favorite of your jerseys. It has Marcus's hair with the 36, and there's a clover in the 6. So when you designed that jersey, like, what was obviously the trade was the inspiration behind it, but more so like what brought you to that design?
Yeah. So that one, I think what I wanted to do with it was keep it as like clean and simple as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think there are so many different ways to do tributes to players. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've seen, like, as is, we're currently dropping the Paul Pierce tribute jersey, which is like an amalgamation of his time at Kansas and his time with the Celtics. And you've seen jerseys of like, LeBron, and it's like half Cavaliers, half Heat, half Lakers. And you got all these kinds of like jerseys that kind of track a player's career. And I had done some, like I did a Larry Bird one last year, which was Bird shooting his 3 as the eye in the Celtics, and wanted to not have just like another Smart taking up a letter, but instead having it be like a Celtics jersey and Marcus Smart is there. And I mean, I feel like it also wanting it to be almost like an inside joke in the sense that like if you loved Marcus, you knew his hair and you knew why he had green hair and you knew how beautifully like it was him as a person and how beautifully it meshed with the Celtics and like all of these things. It just was so iconically him. And I think like I could have done a defensive play, could have done him hitting hitting the floor, hitting all kinds of different, taking a charge. But like, it was just, to me, just the visualization of like just his hair. It's all you need to see, and you're just like, that's Marcus Smart. And
I see what you mean about the Larry Bird jersey.
Yeah, and it will bring you whatever like emotion that Marcus Smart has. And I thought that like that added emotion into the jersey was that
clever.
It brought in his mom, it brought in him as a person, it brought in like what he meant to Boston. And so then I was trying to think of ways to put that on the jersey as subtly but also artistically as possible, and that's kind of where it ended up. And then had the front and the back on two sides of the jersey and called it quits.
Yeah, and it's so, like I said, it's such an incredible piece, and for just what Marcus meant to the city. It's just, I'm really glad that somebody was able to showcase it in an artistic style in a way that was already such like a hype and followed process that like it just deserves so much recognition. And I think you did an incredible job with it.
Appreciate
I
that.
have to ask, since we're on the topic of favorites, have you posted a jersey, and what's your most controversial upload? What's your most controversial, like, oh geez, that's not what I meant, oh my gosh, or like fan reception wise?
That's a good question,
because I know it also could be just watching you that you get so much positive feedback and people love what you're doing, but of course it's you, so the 2 or 3 times someone has said something.
I think the only time that I can think of like most of the people not getting it was last year, and I'm thinking about doing it again this year. Was last year I did a very specifically non-Celtics jersey, and it was purple and baby blue, and it was pinstripes, and it had totally different font. I think it was like for Win 39. And I was just like, I'm gonna make a jersey that's just not Celtics jersey, because I was
just completely off base,
completely
whatever.
Just nothing to do with the Celtics, nothing that like connected it back to what the Celtics was. And I had a lot of people be like, what is this? What does this have to do with the Celtics? And I was like, well, that's the whole point, is that it's nothing to do with the Celtics. So
yes.
I think that's the one that stands out to me is people as like having to do a lot of explaining. I think that there's anyone else that kind of stood out as people not quite. For the most part, though, it's all just kind of like ideas that they're just inherently Celtics themed, so they're kind of like, oh, that's a cool jersey, or from specifically Boston that either you get the reference or you don't. And I've had people obviously be like, I don't get the reference, can you elude me? But then
I don't understand. But
the reference, they're like, oh yeah, no, I see it, I get it. Right. And so that was, I think the non-Celtics jersey was the only one where people were like, I don't get this. This seems dumb. And I was like, that's fine. I don't care.
That's fine. It was funny for me. And
exactly.
Your response made it better.
Me. I was 39 jerseys in. I thought I was all out of ideas. Little did I know I had to make another 100 after that.
Yeah. No. I remember that jersey. I remember I was like eyeballing this thing. Like there has to be some sort of like connection, and I just couldn't make it. So like, I'm glad to hear that I'm not insane.
It was completely made to have zero connection to the Celtics.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes me feel better because I don't feel as crazy. Because like I'm staring at my phone, like
it's funny you say that though, Jared, because I think that probably happens a lot. Like if they don't understand the reference, they just think, "Oh, yeah, I guess I don't understand that reference. I'm gonna scroll on."
Yeah, no, and I'm the maniac who will like try to figure it out. So like I will sit there and like over and over look at it. All right, so one question that I do have, not really relating to the jerseys necessarily, but it could, right, is you've been involved in the Celtics Twitter for a while, and you have a following on Insta, you said, and just in general you've been involved with Celtics Nation. So out of everything, and obviously, you know, you talked a lot about the support of your jerseys and the sales and everything that went into that. But outside of that, right, like separating from that, what has your favorite memory been of Celtics Nation, like in general?
That's a really good question. I mean, so I think I would have a few. So first off, when I lived in Boston, so I grew up outside, and then went to school, and then came back and lived in Boston for a year and a half, and lived in the North End, and was season tickets holder for that year, because I was just right next to it, and I was like, I have to do this.
Choice.
And as always, I just like loved going to games, and just the camaraderie of, I don't know these people, but I'm best friends with them for 2 hours, and it's just like incredible. That was always something that I loved, and you know, being up in the bleachers and you're just having a grand old time and being surrounded by people who are all also having a grand old time is always something. And I know you can say that about any kind of sporting event, but there is something that's like, I feel like uniquely it. And I don't know if it's just, and I don't know if that's just like, cause I grew up, like when you grow up in Boston or around Boston as a Boston sports fan, there's like the way to be a Boston sports fan.
Yeah.
And when you're surrounded by other people who are being a Boston sports fan, you're like, oh my gosh, my people, as opposed to like if I'm watching a game with like, I don't know, friends and family, or just like other friends, and you're just like shouting obscenities and like, oh, that seems a bit much, Pete. And you're like, no, but it's totally not. It's totally not. This is how you watch sports.
Really not.
I get really invested. I get emotionally invested, and I get pissed off, and the whole 9 yards. And So anyways, so those kinds that will always hold a special place in my heart. Others, like, I think what I love like from the community online is kind of what you guys have been talking about, where it's just like how natural it is for people to get kind of like promoted through it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Where it's just like someone's doing cool stuff, someone's making cool designs, do cool anything, and it's like people are like, sick, this is it, like we're gonna share and promote it, and like the whole 9 yards. Like I have sweatshirts from designs that people of Celtics Twitter have just done, and they've been like, hey, I'm just selling these. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm gonna get that sweatshirt. It's a dope ass sweatshirt.
Exactly.
You know, and like that kind of whole mentality and that whole like feeling of camaraderie and community, and it's amazing. It's amazing that it can happen on a hellscape that is Twitter.
And that great. Too, exactly. It's that like commitment to the bit that is crazy. It's like people will go along with you and just support you with no questions asked, and then they'll be happy for you. Which is, as much as I wish it was more frequent in real life, it really isn't, to just be able to see a bunch of people in one reply thread about someone, like getting a job opportunity that is ambiguous, and it'll have like 400 likes and people just being like, and there'll just be a little shamrock there. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Yep.
I also do remember when Marcus got traded, logging onto Twitter, and the comfort it brought to seeing my whole timeline being everyone being like, this is awful. This is terrible. I hate everything. And so like that also, it's those moments where it's like you are experiencing something, and it's great to, sometimes it's good feelings, sometimes it's bad feelings. It's like comforting to know that there are so many people out there who are experiencing those same things, and that you're all able to connect and talk about it and communicate and have that community regardless of where you are in the actual like country.
Right. And that's one of the other things that I've noticed about Celtics Twitter is there's people from all over,
for sure,
that, everywhere that support
Shout
the team.
out Celtics Turkey.
I mean,
it's wild.
Ryan became a Turkish international celebrity overnight.
That was micro celebrity for no reason, but that's like random Celtics stuff, like the weirdest side of Celtics Twitter. Like, why are there a million Turkish Celtics fans? Who knows? But it's great.
Yeah, I won't complain.
No, and it's like during Marcus's return game, early February, there was a group of 20 Celtics fans from France. Shout out to Cedric for organizing that and bringing them all here. And they went to the Lakers game, they went to the Memphis game, and like they hung out with people. They went to the meetups, and we talked about this on our first episode for a little bit. But like Cedric and one of his other friends had walked Ryan and I to the car, which was a good 25-minute walk from TD Garden, right? And like they didn't have to do that. Their hotel was in the opposite direction.
He's French. Why is he walking me to my car?
It is just.
But we were like, hey, so what's going on, you guys? And they were like, oh no, we just brought you to the car. We'll head on back now.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, how wonderful!
Yeah.
All the way from France.
And it's just like so incredible to see that it's like not, because if you think about it, right? Like if I was to meet you at a bar or something and tell you, oh yeah, like there's this awesome support system of Celtics fans, in your head, you're probably going to think, oh, he probably has a group of friends, 5-6 people that are very supportive of each other. But then you like zoom out the lens and it's thousands upon thousands of people all supporting not only the same team, but each other.
Yeah.
It's just such like an incredible thing that I don't think gets enough recognition. And honestly, to be completely honest, you're one of the catalysts of it, right? Like your jerseys started bringing people together from what I've noticed.
I appreciate that. I would not say that about myself, but I think more so is it's just, I think we've seen the shift in Celtics Twitter from just like what is the thing, for lack of a better word. Like I remember when I first kind of like tapped in, it was weird. Celtics Twitter was all the like crazy artwork and all those kinds of things. And like, that's what was being shared around. And that's what people were like, kind of like talking about. And then it's kind of changed as, it's moved to different things. And so I am just very honored to be in the mentions of it, or just a part of it. Cause it is just such an amazing community that like, I don't necessarily think that any other community, any other team's fan base, what I'm doing would have hit as well, or as become as popular, or as supported, or as, kind of like, I don't necessarily know if that would have happened.
It's like a long-term memory sort of things, that things just get committed to long-term memory. Like I will think about you and your jerseys when we win banner 18. You know what I mean? And whenever that may be, I'll think about you solely
Brian,
because
I need you
of
to
all
knock
this.
on wood real quick. I need you to knock on wood. Thank you.
We're good. We're good. But I just think that the commitment of, oh wow, I wonder if he made a jersey for that. I wonder, and it doesn't matter even if my Twitter were to be deleted today, I would still think that. And there's something about the Celtics community that instead of short-term memory, it all gets committed to long-term memory. I love it.
Yeah.
And to build off of that, actually, first off, whenever we win a game, the first thing I'm looking for is your jerseys. That is the first thing. Or if like I'm in the car and like I can't catch the end of the game, like I'll look on Twitter, like, did we win? Like, okay, Pete posted a jersey, we won. But the second thing I want to say is obviously, designing jerseys is not your original idea, right? Like people have been doing it forever. And I will never forget, I forget the person's name, but I think it was like a Sacramento Kings jersey. They had like a similar, like
Casey Vitelli.
Yes. So Casey had posted one for a win, and I just remember like a swarm of Celtics fans being like, "You stole Pete's idea," and you're like, "Hold on, crowd control."
Casey and I are friends. Like we know each other. We've been friends for a long time, and he texted me and was like, "Hey, like I want to do this for the Kings. Could I?" And I was like, "Sure." It's not my idea. I was like, "Go at it." And so there was like the first few that all the people were like, "Oh, this is a lot like Pete Rogers. Seems like you're taking it from Pete Rogers. And they would tag me, and I'm like, okay, no, this is not
what's happening.
Not what's happening. He's doing a great job. Like, go if you want to look at Kings jerseys, go check them out.
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about before too. Is like Celtics Twitter. Not only are they so supportive, they will jump like piranhas to the defense of anybody.
Yeah,
so, like you see that it's like, no, you're stealing Pete's idea. Like, no, he's not. Like, this isn't my idea.
But that's even cooler, I think, because it feeds back into that overall being happy for people thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is it feeds into like, wait, guys, right now I'm going to say that no, we like him. Like, no, we like what they're doing. No, we like them. We've decided. I'm letting everyone know. And then everyone's like, oh, yay. Then awesome. Good for you. Hell yeah. It's perfect.
It's such a great thing to see because Celtics Twitter is just like the only thing that it's like, it's all or nothing with just about everybody.
Yeah. 0
well,
to 100.
That's just Boston sports. Just being projected onto your interactions, which is again like why when you're watching with other people who watch sports the same way, you're like, my people.
It just feels so much better. Exactly.
So much better.
So I do want to ask you this, and this is something I ask everybody. It's sort of like final thoughts almost, right? Like, is there anything that you want to share with the people listening? And it can be anything, any advice, it can be any stories, like anything you want to say.
Promo.
I think I would start by just like, I don't think I can ever put into words the like appreciation that I have for everyone in this community. It's the only reason that I did it again this year, that any of them are being sold and that we're still making them, is because of the support that the Celtics community has given. And so like without that, I wouldn't be here. So, as long as you guys keep supporting, I'll keep making them. I can make that commitment. That's an easy thing for me to say. In terms of promos, we got the Paul Pierce drop going on currently. We only have 100 of them. So this is a super limited drop. So if you want one, come and get it until we are sold out. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say. I will end with one thing, is that I know for a fact that Marcus has seen the Marcus tribute jerseys and appreciates them. So that fills my heart with love.
That's amazing.
That makes me so happy. I say that all the time. I'm like, if I could know that any single Celtic, or even once was, looked at this baked good, whatever it is, and was like, nice.
Dope.
You don't even have to tell me. Just the idea of that is enough for me.
No, that's incredible. And that actually gives me hope. When he got traded, I'm pretty sure I probably sent it to you, or you might have seen it. I wrote almost like a goodbye letter from Celtics Twitter to Marcus. And that was so well received to the point where like Celtics family members were tweeting it out.
Love it.
And I don't know. I never heard if he did or not, but hearing that he saw your jerseys gives me hope that maybe he saw that article. But no, and I think, and again, the way that I said it earlier, in you showing your appreciation obviously is just goes to show just the type of people that are within this community, right? Because there's so many people who could be in your position, like, yeah, I'm the shit. I make these awesome jerseys. I sell them, whatever, right? But first of all, you're incredibly humble about it.
It's pure. It's just I appreciate that. I really just it kind of just happened. So I'm riding the wave for as long as it lasts.
No, and like that's the other part, and that's why I said what I said earlier, where like I do feel like you are sort of part of that catalyst that created such the positive community, is because once your jersey started coming out and on a more consistent basis, probably around like the 15 or 16 win mark last season, I had people messaging me like, yo, have you seen Pete's new jersey? Like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And it's just like this brought people together, right?
Well, and I'm even thinking about it right now. I'm thinking like, I can't remember directly, but I'm sure it must have been at least subconscious that when I started doing playoff desserts, that I must have stumbled across the concept of like, oh, do this for every win, or oh, do this for every, and that kind of carrying over. It has, at least in my mind, where you might think of it, your weird Celtics like milestone moment in your head. You're one of those for me, and I think for Jared as well, where it's like, yeah, that was a really big part of. It's a really good reference point. Like your story is a really great reference point of, wow, look how well this can go, and how just really someone that is really good at something and really cares about it. If enough people see it, they'll love it because it's genuine and authentic. And so you're one of those milestones. I know we've said that a few times, but it's super true.
Oh, I appreciate that. Love hearing it.
But so for everybody listening, you can find Pete Rogers. His information is right down at the bottom of the screen at Pete M. Rogers. Is that the same on Instagram?
Same on Insta. And then if you want to, I mean, you're a Celtics fan, so you want to listen to my Celtics ramblings on Twitter. But if you just want jerseys, at Shop Banner 18 is on both Twitter and Insta.
At Shop Banner 18. So there you guys have it, folks. Pete, thank you so much for coming on and being part of Dunks and Donuts. And again, everybody go follow Pete. Keep an eye out for his jerseys. If you see one you like, you got to go grab it. Those things sell out quick. So again, Pete, I do want to say thank you.
Thanks for having me. You guys had a blast.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So everybody, that's Pete in a nutshell. There you have it. He was exactly. Yeah, amazing. Like Ryan said, we love him. Just super wholesome guy. And his story is just incredible.
Yes, it is.
You know, and
he took off in a way that I think a lot of us only can hope to when it comes to just doing something you love. Right. He started out making those. I think it was NFL jerseys, right?
Well, no, it was somebody was making a drawing every day until the 49ers had won the Super Bowl, and that's what inspired him to do it. And he talks about all that, obviously. So if you missed it, you can go back and listen. But no, he was just absolutely incredible. And for those of you listening on Spotify, check out the YouTube, because Pete does name drop a few of his favorite jerseys, and we will have them up in the YouTube video, so you're able to see them if you haven't already seen them on Twitter.
Yeah, he gives some really good background stories as to why he likes them individually, and how sometimes like a few of them are his personal favorites that aren't necessarily like crowd favorites. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was a ton of fun. But yeah, so tune in next week. We got some big things in the works. Ryan and I are not going to spoil it.
No, I'm going to be quiet.
Good luck. That was mean. I'm sorry.
No, that was true and funny.
But no, we're not going to spoil anything. We got some pretty big things in the works, and I think you guys are going to like what's coming to Dunks and Donuts here in the next few weeks. So, tune in every Sunday morning for a new episode. So grab your donuts, grab your coffee, and enjoy Dunks and Donuts.
Bye.